In this project, we're going to build something that powers billions of dollars in transaction volume on Solana, a fiat-backed stablecoin. If you've ever used USDC or USDT, you've interacted with this exact type of system. So what exactly is a fiat-backed stablecoin? It's a token where every single coin in circulation is backed one-to-one by real dollars, sitting in a bank account or treasury bills. When someone deposits $100, we mint 100 tokens. When they want their dollars back, we burn the tokens and release the funds. Simple concept, but building it correctly requires understanding some critical Solana concepts. Here's what you're going to learn. First, we'll dive into Token 2022. It's Solana's modern token standard designed to build tokens with real on-chain rules, advanced control, and features like freezing, burning, and role-based access. Token 2022 has several different extensions that you can add onto a token for various use cases. Specifically for this project, we're using Token 2022 to be able to meet regulatory compliance needed to issue a stablecoin. For example, if a sanctioned wallet is holding your stablecoin, regulators expect you to be able to freeze or seize those assets, and Token 2022 enables this feature. Second, we'll learn about program-derived addresses, or PDAs. Our program uses PDAs as the mint authority, which means no private key controls the token supply. The program itself is the only thing that can mint, and it only does so when the rules are followed. Third, we're implementing a minter allowance system. Not everyone can mint tokens, only authorized minters, and each one has a cap on how much they can create. This teaches you how to build role-based access control on-chain. Fourth, you'll build emergency controls, a pause mechanism that stops all minting if something goes wrong. Real stablecoins need circuit breakers, and you'll understand exactly how to implement one. The patterns you learn here are similar to those used by actual stablecoin issuers, so let's get to building. Before we build our stablecoin, let's make sure we understand how tokens work on Solana. So there's two account types that you need to know. First, there's the mint account. This defines the token itself. Think of it like the definition of a currency. It stores the total supply, the number of decimals, and who has the authority over it. There's only one mint account per token. Now, second, there's the token account. This is where tokens are actually held. It's like the wallet for that specific currency. It tracks a balance and points back to its mint, but also its owner. There can be millions of token accounts for a single mint, one for every user holding that token. The simple way to remember this, the mint is like the currency definition, and the token account is a wallet that's holding that currency. Solana has a built-in program for handling tokens called SPL Tokens. If you're familiar with Ethereum, this is Solana's equivalent to ERC20. It handles the basics, like creating mints, minting tokens, burning tokens, and transferring between accounts. It's been around since Solana's early days and works great for simple tokens. But this is where token extensions comes in. It's also called Token 2022, and it's a superset of the token standard that's backwards compatible with the SPL token, but it adds powerful new features called extensions. There's over 15 different extensions available today, and a token can mix and match with different extensions as you see fit. For example, if I'm creating a subscription service and I can have a website that is token gated, but you must own the subscription token to be able to access it. So for this to work, I would create this token with an extension like non-transferable and permanent delegate enabled. So when someone signs up for the subscription, I'll mint a token to their wallet and they won't be able to transfer it. And this validates that the holder has actually successfully signed up for the subscription. Then if the user stops paying for the subscription, the permanent delegate can then go and burn their token, revoking their access to the subscription service. Now, for this project, it's a stablecoin. So a stablecoin would use token extensions to ensure regulatory compliance. So here's some extensions that we could use for our stablecoin. There's permanent delegate. This lets an admin transfer or burn tokens to any accounts. And why would you want that? Well, for compliance, sanctioned enforcements, legal recovery, real regulated stablecoins, they'll need something like this. There's also default account state. New token accounts can start frozen or unfrozen by default. This gives you control over who can actually hold your tokens. Then there's metadata. You can store the token's name, symbol, and image URI directly on-chain, so there's no external programs that are needed. And then another one would be transfer hooks. So transfer hooks allows you to run custom logic on every single transfer. This enables things like KYC checks, blacklists, or transfer fees. So when we initialize a mint account for a stablecoin, we'll initialize all the extensions that we want to use at that time. And we'll see exactly what that looks like when we clone our code right now. So here is our stablecoin code. And as always, we're going to start with the program state. So we're going to scroll down. Everything here is in one librs file. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth around the file a bit. But we're going to scroll down to where all of our account structures are. And the way that this stablecoin is created, there are 3 core accounts. So the first one is our config accounts. And the config account is essentially like the control center of the stablecoin. And how that works is there's only one config per program. And the reason behind that is because when you're defining the config account when it's initialized, so we're going to go back to initialize and going to the initialize struct where all of the accounts are passed through. When you're defining the config account, you can see here for the seeds field where the PDA is defined, the PDA is just config. So because it's only one word that is a constant, there can only be one config PDA. If there were other variables added, like the payer's public key, then there could be multiple config PDAs. However, here there's only one constant for the PDA, so one config account per program. And this config account is what's going to be, like I said, the control center of the stablecoin. So going back to our account structs, we have our config. And the reason that there's only one is because it's essentially the mint authority and the permanent delegate of the coin, and it signs all token operations via CPIs. So when our CPIs are called within the program, it's going to be with signer seeds, and those signer seeds are going to be the config accounts. So this has the main control of the stablecoin. However, we're going to want to have people being able to have access to mint new tokens and burn those tokens. And we're going to do that by having a minter config and being able to add and remove minter authorities to the program. So that is what this other account is, this minter config account. And what that is just storing all of the information for a minter that is going to have access to mint tokens. So you can see here it's storing the minter's public key as well as how many tokens they're allowed to mint, and then keeping track of how many they've minted so far. So if you're allowed to mint 1,000 tokens, at each token that you mint is going to add as a counter here in this allowed mint field, amount minted field. And then just saving if it's initialized, and then the bump, which we've already went over in the escrow program, why you want to save the bump field in your program state. Okay, so these are the 2 accounts that actually have a custom data structure that's defined here that are holding data on chain. The other account, which is the last core account for this program, is going to be the mint account of the stablecoin itself. And that's not going to have a struct here because it's not going to be holding actual data besides what is in the mint account for a token. And that is created by using the mint instruction with the token program or token extensions program, which we'll be using specifically for this project. So that does not have to have a data structure defined here. So just to recap, you only define this accounts structure when you are creating a new account on chain that has custom data that needs to be met. And you're going to specify every field for that data. For mint accounts, all of the data that's stored is already predefined for token mints. Okay, so before jumping into the actual instructions, one more thing to just recap with our config accounts is we have the minter config to enable multiple minters with different issuant constraints and specified amounts over time. So this helps meet a lot of regulatory compliance that's needed for issuing a stablecoin. Now we can dive into the actual instructions themselves. So if we go back up to the top where we have this program macro from Anchor, and then we have our stablecoin that has every function defined here, we're just going to go over high level what each function is, and then we'll dig in a bit deeper where we need to review new concepts that are being learned from this bootcamp. A lot of the concepts are repetitive from previous projects in the bootcamp, so we're just going to not dive too deep into that, but give a high-level overview. So the first instruction here is initialize. And what this does is it basically bootstraps the whole system. So I'm initializing what the config account is and storing all of the data needed for that config account. I'm initializing what the mint is and what extensions that I want added to that mint account. And I'm also calculating how much space is needed for the mint account to be minted and held on chain, and setting up the instruction to initialize a mint using the Token 2022 program. Now, the next instruction is configuring a minter. So what this instruction does is it configures a new mint authority on the stablecoin. So if you're adding a new person into the stablecoin that has the authority to mint X amount of tokens, you're going to execute the configure minter instruction and specify the public key, the amount allowance that they have to be able to mint, and then that way the user will be able to execute the mint instruction that we'll show in just a second. And then we have the remove minter instruction, which basically just does the opposite, removing that public key's access to be able to mint tokens. Now, you have this mint token instruction, and typically you can just call mint from SPL Token. And anyone that has the correct authority, when you mint it, you're going to be able to just call it. However, the reason we have a custom program here is we want to have specific minters with a specific amount of allowance over a certain amount of time. So to be able to customize that, it's going to be in its own program. So here you can see that there's this require. We're requiring to make sure the stablecoin is active, but there's also a require to make sure that it's the correct minter config. So the correct person with the correct allowance can call this mint instruction. And if you don't have that correct allowance, then this instruction is going to fail. So what sets this apart from the typical mint instruction for SPL tokens is that your minter authority is able to be controlled with an allowance and a time that it's able to mint because of this configure minter account that we have and these instructions that we have as well. So again, this is just to map back to making stablecoins meet specific regulatory compliance that's needed from specific companies. Now, the next few instructions that are here are just additional sanity checks and security checks, like being able to pause the token or unpause it, being able to force burn or force transfer tokens. And these are just, again, to meet regulatory compliance. And one instruction that I did skip over was the burn tokens instruction. And the burn tokens instruction is just burning tokens once someone is ready to then receive fiat back for their stablecoin. So just to go back over how this entire life cycle of a fiat-backed stablecoin works is you have a user deposit fiat into a bank account, and then they're able to mint the equivalent one-to-one of what that asset is on chain. So if I deposit $100 into a bank account, then I'm able to mint 100 USDC on chain. And then when I'm ready to withdraw that from the bank account, I am able to burn those 100 tokens on chain and then withdraw from the account. Now, very simple mint and burn mechanism that happens here. However, to be able to have this meet compliance and be able to make sure that the backing stays one-to-one and everything is correctly working, we have these additional authorities and configs set for having minters that have specific access to be able to validate to make sure these transactions are accurate. So now that we've gone over all of the functionality behind the stablecoin and mainly the importance of SPL tokens versus token extensions and where that use case comes in for using token extensions, we can now test the project. So we're just going to run cargo test and let all of the tests run. And this has a pretty developed test suite, just looking at different edge cases, security restraints for the stablecoin. So you can see here there's 23 tests, they all passed. And you can see we have testing initialize, testing if it fails, testing the mint authority, and testing all of the instructions. So the best way to properly understand this program is just going through all of the tests, seeing how they work, and checking out all of the ways to build out a stablecoin. So that's everything for the stablecoin project. If you're interested more in depth of how each one of these functions work and how the derive accounts worked for Anchor when you're passing through all of the accounts that are associated with an instruction, go back to the escrow project because that goes in depth on that section of Anchor and how to write out your instructions and the accounts associated with it. So that's everything for the stablecoin.